and Ms. Preeti Marda of Power to SM. I'd like to heartily thank them for their presence here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, respected members of management, distinguished delegates, faculty colleagues, and dear students. The earlier session has well established the fact that the time has come for flexibility, which is no longer a variation. But it's a very, very important part of the employment model these days. It's an important topic as increasingly a talent deficit is felt in the HR circuit. I'd like to add here that the definition of the term employment has changed altogether. Earlier it was thought that flexi hours is for mavericks, people who are off the stream, people who are kind of mad, who cannot adjust to the regimented schedule of 9 to 5. But today it is no longer the case. In fact, in one of the cases, the company gives a proper skills training to the women who come after the maternity leave. They also allocate a mentor to the women, so that they are encouraged to join back and they are helped very thoroughly in their transition phase. Sometimes, and there are also cases when it's a very good option for the employer to have flexibility. In case of a company that provides 24/7 global tech support to its customers, it was a cheaper option to provide a laptop, internet connectivity, and a mobile to its employees. The arrangement was that all the employees were supposed to give 24/7 tech support to all its customers. One of the options was that you open the office all through the night. Second option was you give that connectivity, laptop and mobile to the employees. So in this case, it was a win-win proposition where the employee also found this a good option and so did the employer. Yet another type of flexibility is when an employee does not wish to work stretch hours. There are employees who cannot take that heat of long hours, increased work pressures. They would rather take it slow, not take that much of load in terms of the responsibilities, and have a little lesser increment than the counterpart. That's also kind of a flexibility. So people have various reasons for flexibility. Earlier the reasons were just the family compulsions. Today the reasons are various. Some people want to pursue their avocations like learning music or kind of taking their career forward in a different stream altogether. So they may want a break from the regular activities. Also, companies are using this option to deal with their creative talent. Now that's another area where creativity is needed, when you need to deal with your creative talent. Siemens, Radio City, Dr. Reddy's laboratories, they all use it for their creative talent. Overall, I would say to have flexibility, it's a question of finding a balance between the discipline and freedom. I think that is where our last session, tools and techniques, will probably tell us that what are the feasible options of flexibility. To analyze this theme, many paths to flexibility, the employee perspective, we have our distinguished panelists, Mr. Subodh Saluja from Manpower Group, Mr. Sujoy Basu, he's the HR head ABC Consultants, and Ms. Preeti Marda, who is heading HR at Power to SM. I'd like to give a brief profile of Mr. Subodh Saluja, and then we'll have take over and analyze this thing for us. Mr. Subodh Saluja is the head projects Manpower Group. In the past, he has held important designations in TCS and Infosys. His education is from IMT Ghaziabad. He has total 12 years of work experience. He's a certified project management professional from Power Management Institute, USA. He's a certified outsourcing professional from IIOP, USA. He has 2 years of international work experience at the USA. Now I'd request Mr. Subodh Saluja to enlighten our audience with his views on what are the various constructive paths that an employee may be wanting from the employer.
Thank you very much. Can you have the presentation, please? The way I'll be structuring my presentation is, I'll be talking about the different perspective of employee flexibility. So I'll be covering, perspective in terms of time, in terms of the location, in terms of the work profile, We'll talk about the ownership of the flexibility, and finally we'll look at the benefits of flexibility that is there. So I'm not going to bore you with more slides. So just to tell you, they're just 4 slides. So I'm just trying to keep my presentation short and simple. So moving on to the next slide. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the perspective of flexibility to the employees from the time perspective. So when we talk about the flexi hours, I think most of the discussions what we had since morning today, 2 hours we discussed. So we covered most of the topics, but this is what it talks about. And this is I'm referring to as from the Manpower's perspective. Since I represent Manpower Group, so I'm talking about Manpower Group as a company. So we have flexi hours for the employees. So which means like our office timings regular are 9:30 to 6:30. But yes, employee can want to come at 11, then leave at 8. They can do that, or it can be 10 to 6. So it depends on the way the employees they want to balance the time. The second option which we are providing is like work from home, and that is option is available to both of the people. It's not only just the women employees, so even men they want to take the work from home option, they can take that. I'll just give you my personal example. When obviously I had my daughter, so everybody was working at my home. My parents were working, my wife is working, I was working. So then I just had a discussion with my manager, and I asked him, sir, what we have to balance the environment at home. So one day in a week I'll have to take an off, which means I can just work a bit from my home, but I have to look after my daughter as well. So obviously that was approved upon, and that is how somehow I also managed so-called the initial 6 months, and finally it went very well. So my parents got retired, and now there's a support from here, right? So yes, work from home, that is one of the best benefits which is there for everyone. That's there. The next is for the sales team. I think the point which Mr. Dwakanath mentioned. So let us say how do you kind of manage and check. So for the Indians, there is a sales team, and the thing is it's not necessary for them to report to the office. Let us say they have a client meeting at 10, next meeting at 2, next meeting at let us say at 6. So you can't say first you come to the office at 9. And then you leave for a meeting at 10, and then that is how again you come back, so those kind of things. So sales team, they are the hunters for the organization. They are the ones who really bring business to the organization. So they have the entire flexibility. So we have an online system, which basically they can say that it's on duty. So they can just simply say that, okay, I am on duty on this particular day, and then they can just not come to the office on the same day. So flexible hours for the sales team. And the good thing for everybody to know is that we as my name of the organization is Manpower Group, but 50% of the workforce is women. So that's the driving force. So when we talk about so-called 80 countries operation and $22 billion we make, so almost like 11 billion comes from the women who are working across different countries across the world. So I'm very happy to say that we have a ratio 1:1 in our organization, and that is how. So it's the women power which drives the Manpower Group. That's how it is. So again, this is a statement which you see here is what matters is the work you do and not from where you do. So again, this is again, so-called the supportive manager which you have. So he said that Subodh, I don't care from where you're working. If you're sitting in a cafe coffee day and just typing some mails, working on some presentations, I'm fine with that. As long as you deliver the work, that is fine. And that same holds true for the women employees as well. So as long as you're delivering onto the work, it's fine. So you have the flexible option out there. So this is, we are talking about the flexibility from a time perspective. So you can manage your time, you can manage the day, and that is, how about that, right? So next, the perspective I'm going to talk about is from the work perspective. Are you giving the flexibility to the employee in change in the role? So yes, we as Manpower Group have the flexibility in terms of the job rotation, we call it. So let us say a recruiter, a consultant was spent 3 years in this role as a recruitment consultant. And now that lady or that person wants to basically move into the role of account manager. So we as Manpower Group have a policy that we will do a competency mapping. So we have an online personality test whereby we can check your competencies of the individual. So when I talk about competencies, so competencies can be, let us say, your traits of personality. Say for example, your openness, extraversion, leadership quality, social ability. So all these are your traits of personality. And each job profile which I have mentioned here, let us say account manager or a salesperson or HR operation. So there are some traits which you need to have, a minimum basically traits in order to perform in that particular job. And these are called as competencies to that job profile. So we evaluate that job profile. So again the thing is, it can be two perspectives. So one is the manager identifies that this person who is in my team, he can move to the role of from a recruitment consultant to the role of an account manager. So he is the one who is bringing this change. And the second perspective is the employee himself, wants to bring that change, and he goes to the manager and says, this is the kind of a change I want to bring into my role. So can you please look into it? So both perspectives are addressed. So as you can see the photograph here, which means you can don different roles, or it can be two roles at the same time. So account manager, salesperson can be one, or it can be account manager as a strategic role. Let us say you are managing a Fortune 500 client. So 5 clients mapped up to one particular account manager. Like we as Manpower have 500 clients. So we have account managers who are taking care of these particular accounts. So these are the alignment which is there. So that is the flexibility in terms of the work profile. The second flexibility which the employees get is in terms of their work location. So I'll give you an example. So a lady, she got married and husband was based out of Mumbai and she was based out of from Delhi. So we transferred her from Delhi to Mumbai. So that is the flexibility in terms of we are giving in terms of the location to the employees. And since Manpower is present in 80 countries, another example, one of the ladies, she was working as a recruitment consultant with us, and her husband, he was based out of London, so as an IT professional. So she asked for a transfer and she went to UK and she joined Manpower there. So this kind of flexibility, that is open again, so nothing to do only for women or men. It's open for all kind of a thing. So that is there. Internal job posting also. So first of all, we identify the leaders from within. So any employee, any job comes up, first of all it is given to the employees. So that is the perspective which I wanted to share. That in terms of the work profile, this is the flexibility. In terms of the location change, that is the flexibility which we as Manpower Group are offering. Right? The next question is that, I think it was discussed here, is the ownership of this flexibility. So does the ownership lies only to the employee, or are the employers responsible for this ownership of providing the flexibility? So how does that work on, right? So ultimately the thing is, it has to be driven from the leadership of the organization. I'll give you an example like Jonas Pricing, who's our global CEO. So when he came for a visit to India, he shook hands with every employee. So what is this kind of a thing which it talks about? It talks about that the management or the senior leadership is committed to the employees. And that's the communication, it's open for communication. So that is basically how we look at it. So if it is not driven from the top, if the CEO or the managing director of the organization, if he is not committed in terms of providing the flexibility to the employees, nothing will happen. So the chain is that power flows from top to bottom. That is how it works in. And yes, employees also have to take the responsibility. So when work from home as an option is given to the employees, they have to ensure that they are really working from home. And yes, at the same time, we can put a process in place to ensure that there is no leakages happening. Like Mr. Dwarkanath mentioned when he gave it the address, that let us say as an Indian employee, you say I'm working from home, but you go to a movie hall and watching a movie, right? So how do you address that? So what happens is you put a process to monitor the productivity. Say for example, for the sales people, so you will say that okay, at the end you have to report what client meetings you have had, what all things you have done. So that's the reporting process. So you put a process to monitor the productivity. You put a process to monitor the work which is being done, and same goes for the recruitment consultant. Let us say a lady who is working from home, so at the end she has to report how many resumes were sent out, and that is how you are managing checking the productivity which is there. So flexibility, the ownership lies to the individual, it lies to the organization, how you can really help your employees being flexible, at the same time putting in a process so that does not go out of control, right? So next slide, I think it's the last slide of my presentation. So flexibility to the employees, it really helps in the employee retention. It helps in the attraction of the talent. Because ultimately, if you look at compensation, the studies have indicated that this ranks number 4 among the priorities for an employee. The most important thing is, what is the culture of the organization? Are you given the right opportunity? Are you given the right kind of flexibility, the way you want to work? And I'm sure Gen Y like you, people like you want to have the entire flexibility, the way you want to work. So ultimately, you want to decide your own career path. You want to decide like which number of hours you want to work, how many days you want to work. At the end, the organization should just focus on, are they getting the productivity from you, and the rest remaining things should be taken care of. Right? So flexible working helps to attract talent, helps in retention, and reap the benefits of more productive, motivated workforce. So at the end, I think the bottom line is, and it is a fact of life, that happy employees are the productive employees. So ultimately, if you want to have, let us say, customers as happy, ultimately it will dry down to the employees being happy, because if the employees are not happy, then the customers won't be happy, they will not satisfy the customers. If the employees are happy, then this employee flexibility is just one part of what the factors are there for employee retention. There are other topics like say compensation and benefits, reward and recognition. So that is totally a separate or a diverse topic. But ultimately, this flexibility to the employee is one of the parameters which helps in the employee attraction, retention, and the motivation of the employees. So with this, I'd like to close my presentation here. Thank you so very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Subodh. As I see, Manpower Group is very permissive when it comes to flexibility. Mr. Subodh has shared with us 3 perspectives about flexibility. One is time, that is what time you choose to work. One is work, what is the kind of work you choose to work upon. Secondly, lastly, the location of work where you choose to work from. In fact, the current government has also come out with this initiative that in the public sector banks, women should get preference to get transferred to the place where their maternal home is there or where they have gotten married. Now, he has also shared with us the larger perspective that initiatives like these of flexibility need to be driven from top. At the middle and the lower level, you have issues of operationalization, but the philosophy has to be driven from the top. I assume, though it was not mentioned, that these policies are geared equally towards both men and women. So that once again brings us to the theme that larger than this theme could be the issue that this kind of flexibility is much favored by men and women too. Okay. With that, I'd like to welcome our next speaker for the day on this session, Mr. Sujoy Basu. Mr. Sujoy Basu is the head of human resources at ABC Consultants Limited. He has previously worked for 9.9 Media, Uninor, Vodafone India. We are very proud to share that he is our distinguished alumni. He has about 13 years of work experience in HR operations, learning and development, change management and organization development strategy. I welcome you to share your views with us.
Thank you all. Firstly, as pointed out by a number of speakers before us and the panel, flexibility, while the overall theme focuses on flexibility and on women employees, but this is something that affects everybody. So it's not just women employees who are looking at flexibility. There are male employees too who are wanting to benefit from this particular aspect in organizations. And we have a flexible mic. Okay, so what happens is you have a set of policies, you have people, you have guardians of those policies, and then you have to mix and match. Now, this is a topic that is not necessarily only for HR people. This is a topic which is going to affect each and every person in the organization. The question is how rigid one is on a policy, how flexible one is on a policy, whether you can tweak it, what can you add, what can you not add, what is just, what is unjust. All that falls in this realm. Because as employees will ask for anything. Okay? I want X, Y, Z. Now I've asked you. Now it's up to you. If you don't give it to me, I'm unhappy. And then I sulk the whole day, and then I don't work, and then I say, ye nahi hua, wo nahi hua. So the fine balance needs to be maintained, and when we deal with flexibility, this has to be kept in mind that you've not gone overboard at one point in time, and at the same time you've not been too hard. Okay. I thought we'll start with why people consider flexi options. A lot of this has been discussed in the previous session and in this session as well. So a couple of reasons are to beat the traffic. People decide to come at 7:30 in the morning and leave at 4:30 in the evening. Why? Because they beat the morning traffic, they beat the evening traffic, and are able to devote some time at home. Kids' school timings, office too far from home. This is one of the reasons that we've got. My office is too far from home, and therefore I can't come to office. Now it so happened that this particular employee was an ex-employee left us, came back, now is decided to work again. But because of her marriage and etc., she shifted to a very far place and cannot come to office. But we value that particular employee. So we said, okay, fine, there is X compensation that you get and you work from home. Once in a week, this employee comes in and meets the team, has the discussion, does whatever she wants and goes back. But manages everything from home. So the reason can be as simple as our office is too far. But either we can say, no, we won't take this employee. We don't want to have such an employee. Or we say, okay, we value you, let's see how it works out. Well, you have taking care of self and family. Of course, sometimes you are also not well or not in a position. Some people have just, said that, I don't feel like coming to office today, right? So, of course, that purely depends on you and your manager. If you have a very nice and supportive manager, that's always good. If you don't, then you bear the brunt of that. But otherwise, honesty pays at times. And people say, okay, we do admit that earlier on when people said that you need to be in office for a particular period of time, right? That is no longer something that works. People like their freedom. At times you might want to even get up from office, in the afternoon, go out, go finish some bank work, come back, right? You might want to go out, pick up your kid or attend a parent-teacher meeting and then come back, right? So all that, instead of earlier on, I know people used to ask the employees, why don't you take a leave on that day? So that's something which has changed in the past few years. People are open to go, come back and then put in a little extra hours, just so that work gets done. The employee is also happy, employer is also happy. The reporting manager is on flexi time. So now if your reporting manager is coming in at 11 o'clock and staying till 9 o'clock and you are coming in at 8:30 and staying till 5:30, okay, there is going to be only X number of time that you have with your manager. And sometimes that doesn't work. So you could choose to work, sync your time with your reporting manager or with your team, or the reporting manager syncs his or her time with the team and works on a flexi hour, so a flexi time sort of a model. Maternity. Now, generally, yes, maternity is there for about 3 months. But what happens is, generally people say, okay, I want to extend my maternity, right? Now, as per policy, you can throw the rule book at the person and say, look, 3 months is it is, and that's it, no more. But what will happen? You lose an employee. Somebody who was extremely productive 3 months ago, or till the time the person delivered, okay, now she's gone for maternity, suddenly doesn't become unproductive. That person doesn't change, right? So what we would like to do is see that this person benefits. So we say, okay, fine. Why don't you take a little time off? Okay, spend some more time. At times you could work in terms of flexi hour or flexi model sort of a thing. In some cases, the child has complications or the mother has complications. So you say, okay, take 2 more months or whatever months. Then there are different models. You can either give a leave without pay, or you can say you exhaust all your leaves, then go, then come back, then we'll have a look. So all this is what happens is, all this makes people stay with the organization. Education. People say, I want to take a sabbatical to pursue a course abroad. Okay. Are you going to tell that person no? On the one hand, you say, you need to educate yourself, you need to invest in your own time, in training, in your own self-development. On the other hand, when somebody comes up with a particular, so whether it's abroad or even whether it's somebody in one of my previous organizations, the person had to attend a class at 5 o'clock onwards, 5 to 8. Right? In order to attend that class from 5 to 8, the person had to leave by around 3:34. So should we have told that person, no, you need to stay till 6 and then go and attend whatever it is? No, we said, okay, fine, go. So for that particular duration, that employee left office a little early with special permission and completed her education. Right? So there is always a trade-off between time, pay and comfort. Why? Because while all these reasons are genuine and may seem extremely important, but it does come with a cost. Companies no longer are going to just let people take flexi hours for the sake of taking flexi hours. If we are going to give something, then the employee should be prepared to, give up something for that as well. And what could that be? Reduced pay for the said period. So companies come up with policies that, okay, for whatever period you are on a flexi, if you are not coming to office, or if you are not this thing, you will reduce your pay from X to Y and stay on that till whatever period you are on flexi pay. Similarly, a differential pay. So if you work for 5 hours, you will get X amount. If you work for 8 hours, you will get X amount. If you work for 4 hours, you will get X amount. And that is clearly defined, so there is no ambiguity. Leave without pay, so you can choose to not take any pay, go on complete leave, right? And there are some benevolent companies and benevolent managers or special cases where we say, okay, fine, in this case the employee deserves a full pay, and at times we even give that. Now these are very rare and extreme cases. Every time you won't come across companies paying full pay to anybody who's taking an off or whatever, but yeah, there have been circumstances. And again, it purely depends on the management, the style, how loyal the employee has been, what is the history, background of the employee. So all these will help the employee stay on with the company. That's why in some companies, for example in ABC, we have people staying on for 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 15, and we've got one gentleman with 21 years of experience. 21 years with ABC itself. So these are some reasons why people take flexi options, but the outcomes are going to be there as well. So you cannot just assume that, I have asked for a flexi option, I will get it, but it's not going to have some other repercussions or outcomes. You are going to have to trade off something in order to get this. What eventually happens? There are advantages. Any decision has, or any decision that you take has its advantages and disadvantages. You have the employee gets what he or she wants, the company is happy, and the employee is happy. Now, why that is a question mark is, are people really happy when they do that? We'll come to that right now. People are able to accomplish their own tasks and are able to spend time with their family. Right? Disadvantages, reduced pay. Some employees still grumble. That's where the happiness or unhappiness quotient comes in. So one, I want flexi timings. I want to be flexible. At the same time, I need to comply with my company policy, so I will get a reduced pay. But then I start grumbling, मेरे को कम पैसे देने. Is that fair? So the ultimate objective that the employee wanted and that the company wanted was to keep an employee happy, but has that been met? So you will still find a portion of employees who, with flexi timings, with flexi options, will still grumble. That is an issue that the management and the HR and the individuals need to tackle in an organization. Something which is not said, not written, nobody will ever spell it out to you, but generally people who are on flexi hours in terms of long leaves or long periods of reduced pay or whatever will always tend to get lower bonuses. There are bonus policies where people subtract the time that you have not spent in office, subtract that from your bonus or incentives that need to be calculated, and pay that out. So in effect, you are losing out that as well. You tend to get lower increments, okay, without saying. Nobody is going to point a finger at you and say that because you were on flexi time, you are going to get lower increments. But somewhere it happens. Then you are, sometimes we've seen people get cut off from the team totally. So cut off from the team, you miss out all the chitter chatter and the events that take place in office. There are, there's lots of, when you are in an office, in an office environment, sitting, talking to people, meeting your colleagues, there's a different kind of environment versus you sitting at home or, using flexi hours, coming in when people are not there and leaving when people are there. So people, as you put in your 9 hours of work, but when you're leaving at 4:30, people say, "Acha, half day." Look at you. So they were not there at 7:30 in the morning when you came, right? They are only seeing that I come at 9 o'clock and I sit till 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. You have left early. Ye to half day hai. So what you so you have X number of people who are unhappy in that particular way. You have people who come up with all sorts of excuses to grumble because of flexibility. So supposing there was a decision taken, okay, that in a particular case, so Subodh needs flexible timing, okay, his family needs that, he needs to look after his daughter, and his manager was kind enough, good enough, put in a good word for it, he got that, right? Now I go there, I have the same problem, and either my that not right, or there was some, I wasn't in good terms with my manager, or the manager was in a bad mood that day, or whatever, and I'm not allowed that. And as you know, managers can come up with any number of reasons why they won't do something. So I'm told, sorry, you can't get flexi time. So I come back and say, Subodh ko to mila tha. Why not me? Why is he getting that exception? And then I start hitting him for no rhyme or reason. Right? So flexibility can cause these issues also from an employee perspective. Right? So it's not always that flexibility is going to be something that will make people happy. By and large, yes, there are some people who use it wisely and who in the end are happy and loyal and are satisfied with the flexi options that they have and they get. But these are some issues that also may arise during flexibility. The worst thing that could happen, and which obviously does happen, is that people are highlighted as a case or a probable attrition. Because while you might have got that flexi option, and you might have this thing, when you come up for an appraisal discussion, or when you come up for any other employee-employer discussion, okay, that there is always a mark against your name that this guy was on leave for about 2 months. Then this person asked for flexi time. Okay, now this person has again come and said, I need 2 more days off. Monday, and that to Monday and Friday, so which is called Monday and Friday fever, and so you tend to get highlighted or marked ticked off, and that is not a very happy situation to be in. Employers will not tell you that, but when you are having that discussion, you do not know why you are being treated so, but you will be treated slightly differently. Nobody is going to take the onus on them to tell you that, okay, this is why we are treating you like this. Or because you took a flexi option. Because why? Why won't they do this? It's a company policy. The company policy says you can take a flexi option. You've exercised it. But yes, there are these repercussions. So before celebrating, ask yourself: has justice really been done? Right? Do you really want to take that particular flexi timing or flexi option before doing it, or before taking any decision? Think twice before you actually opt for any flexi option that is there in your company policy. It could be there, it is a happy situation, but then there are repercussions. A couple of do's and don'ts. A lot of this flexibility thing that is there hinges around getting permission to actually exercise that flexibility. So it's there in the policy, doesn't mean you're going to get it. There is a small line that HR people generally write, that this is at the discretion of your reporting manager or management, right? We do that to protect ourselves. So what happens is, it's a good thing. One way is you write a mail: I would like to take 2 weeks off from tomorrow. Please approve, and send it. And then your reporting manager says, what the hell? That's how I say. No, finished. Or he won't say no, he'll say, there is this work, there is that work, or whatever. So a consultative approach, or slightly friendlier approach, where you go and highlight the problem, say why, explain why you need a particular leave, or why you need to come in late, go late, why you need X, Y, Z. It could be anything. Okay, explain that. Okay, buy in that person's trust on this particular issue. And once everything has been formalized, then you put in your formal mail that, okay, I would like to this particular flexi option from this time to this time, right? Keep your reporting manager informed, regular updates on work, SMS, WhatsApp, mail, right? So these days WhatsApp is taken over instead of SMSs, so generally people do converse on WhatsApp only. So it's a good thing to keep your reporting manager in loop, so that the person knows and trusts you that, okay, while I have trusted this person with a flexi option, okay, this person too is reposing that trust and is a good employee, is a good worker, and is keeping me informed of what I'm doing, right? And keep HR, finance and payroll in loop, because these are the guys who are going to cut your pay. So you don't want that to happen. There have been cases where the person has come back and the reporting manager, of course, hasn't informed so the person took leave for, was on a flexi, reduced pay for so many weeks, came back a little earlier, but at the end of the payroll cycle got to know that the entire thing was deducted. Why? Because nobody informed the payroll guys that this person was back in office. That led to, a lot of angst, anger, distrust, hoo-halla in the office, and I worked even though I had this particular condition, people were not well at home, still I worked, see my mail, see this, and you cut my pay. Then finance guys will come and say, don't look at me, ask HR. HR doesn't know that you're in office. HR will say, reporting manager didn't tell me. So then there's an entire loop. And all this because of one flexi policy that was there. Lastly, okay, don'ts. Dishonesty. So if you're on flexi timing and you're in the mall or in a movie, make sure you don't get caught. Okay. If you see your reporting manager who may be on leave sitting in the same row, please cover your face or go with a mask, otherwise it's going to be hell will break loose. Please don't make flexi timings or using flexibility a habit. You would not like to be labelled as the employee who at the first instance rushes for a flexi option. No, we've had people who say, okay, I need to go for a medical checkup, I will go on a Friday. Why can you not go on a Saturday? Is that serious? It's not that serious. A preventive health checkup can be done on a Saturday also. It's not that serious that you need to only do it on a Friday. And why a Friday or a Monday? Because it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you tend to get labelled. So try and not make it a habit. And don't force unrealistic demands. Right? Unrealistic demands will only lead you to a lot of angst between you and your manager. Make sure your demand for flexible options is justifiable. Otherwise, like we said over here, next time approvals may not come through. You may get through it once, but if your manager or HR or anybody else sees that you are somebody who is just using it for the sake of using it because it's there in the policy, next time when you actually need it, you might not get the approval. A very happy Teachers' Day to you all, and let's hope that we can use flexibility in a better manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basu. He's shared with us a lot of nitty-gritties of flexibility, that it is not just a want or a desire for less time. There are a lot of operational issues that need to be ironed out. If that is not done, then some people will feel that we are being unjustly treated, we are getting underpaid, or some people will feel that the person who's availed the option is getting overpaid. Okay. From here on, we move on to our next speaker, Ms. Preeti Marva. She's the head of Human Resources at Power 2 SME. Her career journey spans across crafting HR policies and processes in companies like Ranbaxy, Panacea Biotech, CII. Earlier, she's worked with Schneider Electric India as a HR business partner. She's a topper from the Pune University, where she's done her MSW. And she's a BSc Home Science graduate. She's a certified trainer from Aspen University, USA, and from Institute of Training and Development, New Delhi. With that, I welcome Ms. Preeti to share her views with our audience. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to everybody present here, and a very happy Teachers' Day to all, because I firmly believe that teacher is within each one of us. So it's up to us how we do this transaction of learning and giving. Flexibility, I think I learned my first lesson of flexibility from my 3-year-old. It so happened that my 3-year-old joined the play school, and he was given these small sheets of paper, and he would every day return home with a blank sheet of paper. And that obviously, as a new mother, that got me worried, and I kept thinking that, what's wrong with him? I mean, why won't he just pick up a crayon or pick up a pen? And it was kind of a big insecure feeling in my heart. And then it so happened a few days later we had to have the house painted. So I just called him and I told him, I said, Pranav, we are going to paint your room. So the walls are open there for you. Go ahead and let's see whatever you want to do, because tomorrow you're going to get a new room with the new colors. After about half an hour, I come back to his room and I see this little Picasso budding. So he had painted his walls, he had shown his creativity, and he had used every color possible, and he was over and above the world. So that gave me a feeling of what flexibility can do to you. Now the same child was restricted to a piece of paper. He did not like to lift a pencil or a crayon to express. And the moment the whole wall was there for him, his expression was right there for me to see. That's what flexibility is all about. You can't expect people to be creative if you try to hold on to them. Let them loose. The moment you leave them, you'll see that expression. Another very interesting incident which happened to me when I joined Power to SME. Just to give you a brief, Power to SME is an e-commerce startup. And here I employ more techies. So I have a huge number of headcount in technology and product team, more than feet on feet. So it was quite interesting for me because it was my first experience with a huge team of techies. And they are very creative in their thought process, and they like to work, with their own timings. You can't restrict them. So I had this very interesting person and a very high talent. Now this guy, he wanted to work on his own timing. So he would probably start working at around 10 p.m. at night, would go on working till 7 in the morning, and would just not come to work till about 3 in the afternoon. So this was a constant cycle, and it got me kind of worried. And the manager would constantly keep complaining and keep coming back to me, saying that, for some strange reason, this guy refuses to come to work at 9 in the morning. So the first thing I asked him, I said, what's wrong with you? I mean, why is it that, you prefer working from 3 to 6? So he came back to me, he said that, ma'am, somehow, the office timings and my biological clock doesn't work together. So I was okay. I said, and how does it work? So he says, the moment I start thinking about something, I have to sit down and work. So that's what gave me my first lesson as to how I have to be flexible to be able to adjust to the time of these creative people around. So I came up with the option of giving projects on sabbaticals. We have an internal policy where we give sabbaticals to the people who've spent more than 2 years in the company. And I came up with the possibility because many times what happens is people who are traveling, people who are studying, they would like to be involved in the projects. So rather than hiring people from outside to work on similar projects, we started offering projects to our own employees who were on sabbatical. And that obviously gave us a lot of positive input from most of them. Secondly, I think, a few dilemmas that as an HR person we usually face is employee engagement, absenteeism, attrition, and obviously keeping a tab on productivity. Most of these dilemmas can be sorted out if we are able to give that open horizon to most of our people. You have seen, in the past few presentations, you have seen how flexi hours, how flexi timings help people, how work from home facility enhances productivity. I would just like to give you a few more policies that my company is following over and above the ones that you've already heard. One of them is that giving the option of compressed timings to the technology team by and large. So what we do is we expect them to log in the extra 8 hours of a Friday on the first 4 days, from Monday to Thursday, and they can take the Friday off. So that's the way with the compressed hours, they get 3 days of working from home or 3 days of pure recreation, and they log in those extra 8 hours in the first 4 days. So that's one of the policies which I found was extremely friendly and which really helped. Another very interesting experience which I had after joining Power to SME was I have a telesales team, the customer care center. And the biggest dilemma that was going on there was of attrition. So we had rapid attrition. So we had typically have this age group of children from 22 to about 28 years of age, huge attrition, total absenteeism, and the people would just abscond. So, all of a sudden the phones would go off. You're not able to trace the person, where the person is. So I was kind of in a very stuck position because I'm a startup, so I am not a brand. Now what do I do to safeguard my interest, because I did not want to be perceived as an hire and fire employer. So I had to change the policy there, and I'm a big time Bollywood buff. So I had recently seen this movie, I don't know whether you guys have seen it, it's Anil Kapoor's movie called Nayak. So I thought, let me just put that Nayak funda in practice. And with the teams, I just did away with the team leader and the team concept. Now every week, one of the team members was made the team leader. And he was required to manage the rest of the 4 and 5 people for that week. And it so happened within 2 months, there was a 360-degree transition in the way they thought, in the way they were practicing their own internal policies. We have, in today's date, within 6 months, we have zero attrition, because everybody understands the pain point of the team leader during that week. They do call up their bosses and they do call up HR and inform them where they are. So I have no absenteeism at all. And on the contrary, these are the same people who would like to, look for job rotations, who are looking for other roles within the organization. So this was something else that we did besides the usual flexi hours and work from home policies. Another very interesting feature that we have is called job sharing. This is basically targeted at new mothers. So we have a job sharing policy for new mothers where the same job is shared by two new moms. So it's, first 4 hours, an X person would do the same task, and the next 4 hours, another person would do the same task. So you're job sharing, and these two people have the freedom of calling their own login hours. So if I have work, if my child is sick, then I have this option of coming in the morning, and I can call up my partner and request her for, sharing the second half of the day with her. So that's how these few policies have really helped me. Where flexibility comes, I firmly believe, as an HR function, though yes, we are human resource, but I think it's very important for us to take care of the first part of it, which is the human part. Only then you can expect your people to be more productive and creative. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Preeti, for such an insightful presentation. In fact, she has shown us that how lessons can be learned from figments of experience. In fact, creative talent is one where flexibility is required. Like I shared before, Dr. Reddy's laboratories, they are using range of flexibility options. As a result, they see a lot of their employees come back to them who have already left the organization for a second innings, because that kind of flexibility they are not able to find elsewhere. Okay, now with that we have seen range of options coming from our 3 speakers, that how flexibility is seen by the employees and how the employer is viewing it. And now we really don't have much time, but if there is any one question which our students or our faculty colleagues would like to raise, then we'll be happy.
Thank you, panelists, for a very good discussion. I just have a short question. You talked about several options for flexibility, and it comes as a very wide range of options that are available. I want to put a question from the perspective not of an employee, but of that of an employer or an HR manager. What are the challenges that you face? Because flexibility to a very large extent also depends on trust. How would you manage the trust part of it, or how would you manage the monitoring? You mentioned something about studying the sales report and so on. How would you as an HR manager handle if you feel that there are instances of non-compliance? Any one of the panelists could take this.
Okay, so trust, like we said, if you're dishonest, one, don't get caught. 2, if you are But if you've been with a company for some time, generally flexi options at times are given to people who have served at least a year with the organization. So it's not that you join tomorrow and then day after tomorrow you take on a flexi option. That unless, yes, it's an extreme situation, which is an exception. Now, within a year's time, I think people do develop a bond, a trust between the manager and the employee. And so, one, you could be a good egg, or two, you could be a bad egg. Now, if you're a bad egg, then the degree to which you have broken the trust will determine what happens to you. So, and HR and the line would definitely look at a whole range from a simple warning letter or just a discussion to a termination as well. Okay, depending on how severe that particular thing is. So it's the entire range. Okay, that's what we've probably seen. It purely depends on what you've done or what you've not done, and that's how we would like to look at it. It's no one solution fits all. It's always a case-to-case situation basis where a call is taken by the line and the HR together, and depending on what the circumstances were, and then action is taken. But yes, it could be as severe as termination as well.
Yeah, I quite agree with Sujoy. It depends from case to case. However, I certainly feel that especially when you are partnering with the business, it's important to take your independent perspective rather than get influenced by business all the time. Because certainly in a working environment, that is extremely supportive.
So basically, the policy and the framework, let us say, who's like signing off the flexible policy. So in that policy framework, it's all like written out there that if you don't comply with that, then what are the repercussions to it. So as mature employees and individuals, that's the basic expectation which an organization can have. That you comply with that, since you ask for flexibility, we give you the flexibility. So it has to be that thin slice of trust. And very rightly said by Sujoy that for example, a fresher, he's a sales guy, so you just can't say him, okay, from day one you're flexible. So you just make him as a mentor. He's working 6 months, 1 year, as he also understands, and finally then he can take the option after a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana. That's a very pertinent question. I think our next session, the diverse options which the employers have, will further dissect this issue. Thank you, audience and delegates and speakers. Now we'll break for lunch. Faculty and speakers can go to the forum for lunch, and our students can go to the cafeteria for lunch. Students, please reassemble at 1:45 for the next.